What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Reformed Reader, the channel where we review different forms of media through the lens of a Christian who is under the authority of the scriptures. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and we're going to be talking about the broken binding. So today we're going to talk about, is the broken binding subscription worth it or not? Now, I have played the role as the guinea pig for you guys so that you don't have to, but I'm going to go over the pros, the cons, the ins and outs, the costs, and various forms of what to expect when it comes to the broken binding as a subscriber now for a little over a year. So I'm going to try to keep this extremely short and sweet. I've got some notes with me, so if you see me looking away, that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to make sure I stay on track so I can keep this concise. So let's first talk about, what is the broken binding? Now, the broken binding is a subscription service dealing in sci-fi and fantasy books. This is a UK-based company that, for a monthly fee, they do special editions of numerous books, whether it be fantasy, sci-fi, and even a few others. I think they're starting to dabble into some other types of genres and things because they've gotten so big over the past few years and so much notoriety, and rightfully so, that they're going to start dabbling in some other genres. But predominantly they deal in sci-fi and fantasy special edition books. So what is the broken binding? Well, with your subscription to the broken binding, you potentially could receive a copy of some of your favorite fantasy books. Like here, I have a copy of The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams. This is, for me, this is my favorite cover that they've done so far. Absolutely love this cover. But as you can see, the cover art, and I will try to put up on the screen somewhere, the traditional hardcore cover.
Let's do it again from You're Not Hardcore.
And the differences here, because just for instance, you can obviously see that the cover art here is immaculate. It wraps around. Almost every book that I've seen does have a wraparound dust jacket. Not only that, they have these fancy end papers, the interior cover art. They have these phenomenal naked hardbacks. They have sprayed edges. I mean, pretty much everything that you could ask for with a special edition, or that you would want out of a special edition, you get. And if you sign up and are able to score a slot for the tier 1 subscription, then your books will even be signed and numbered, with exception of if like the author is deceased or something like that. And so what the broken binding does is they choose a series, ordinarily a trilogy. Every once in a while they'll divert from that plan, but for the most part they deal in trilogies. But they will do a trilogy of books. They'll choose a book series, and they will release one of those books a month for 3 months. So your subscription grants you guaranteed access to these books. So that may sound really, really cool, but let's break this down into a simple pros and cons list. Let's talk about the pros. Number one is you get a guaranteed special edition book every month, and it's going to be extremely well done. So if you're looking for a special edition version of a science fiction or fantasy book, in my opinion, I think this is the coolest special edition of The Dragonbone Chair that you're going to find. On top of that, you're going to find special editions for some science fiction and fantasy books that maybe you wouldn't otherwise find, such as The Silverblood Promise or The Will of the Many. These types of books are probably not going to warrant a special edition right offhand, in particular with something like The Silverblood Promise, because this was a debut author. So this debut author received this immaculate edition with these sprayed edges, with this interior cover art, and signed copies. So you're not really going to see that with debut authors very often, because it just doesn't ordinarily make fiscal sense for a company to do that. They would rather jump on like a Stephen King bandwagon, or like a Cormac McCarthy, or a Tolkien, or a George R.R. Martin, those kinds of things. I'm looking at things like the Folio Society, which do immaculate work, but it's not the same product. With the Folio Society, you're buying a specific book that is sort of available to everyone, but because of that, you're going to pay a premium. And with the broken binding, you're going to pay the same flat rate each month, and you may receive something that's just going to absolutely blow your mind. And so for me, that is the biggest pro, is that you receive these guaranteed special editions, which are always immaculate. The second pro is that you have guaranteed early access to some of their other sales. So they don't only do subscription books. Sometimes, periodically, they will do other special editions. For instance, you guys may have seen my Sun Eater books that I have. This was a separate sale. This was not included in the subscription service. And so they hold a general sale. They say, hey, we have this series that we're going to do. We're just going to open it up to everybody. You don't have to be a subscriber to the service. However, for the subscribers, we're going to give you early access to the sale. So basically you get a private sale, which means you get a guaranteed copy if you want one almost always. So if you're tier 1, you get it 2 days in advance. If you're tier 2, you get a day in advance before it goes to the general sale. And then once it goes to the general sale, once they're gone, they're gone. And so you may or may not get one. And for me, as a US resident and the time zones being off, there's been a couple of books that I have had to snag by setting my alarm for 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to make sure that I can score these books. As silly as that may sound, but these are for books that I know that I'm going to keep and pass down later on. You do get that early access to these other special editions that are not part of the subscription. Another pro is that you do get one skip per year. So per calendar year, you do get to skip one series. So not just one book, because that really wouldn't make any sense. But if they announce, hey, this is going to be the series for the next 3 months, and you're like, I don't know about that, I'm not sure if I want that, you do have the option of skipping that series. And it's very simple to do. All you do is send them an email and say, hey, I'm not interested in that series, I would like to skip it. And they mark you down. They say, thanks. It will, your subscription will pick back up at this month on this day, and you will not be charged during that time. So that's great. So now let's go over a few cons. Number 1, it's expensive. Now, expensive is a subjective term. It's expensive for me. It costs me around $50 a month to be a subscriber to this subscription service. So yeah, it's pretty pricey for a subscription. The second con is that you don't get to pick the series. They pick the series for you. So if you're somebody that reads and has convictions about their reading, then sometimes the series that they may be doing a subscription of for 3 months very well could be a series of books that not only do you not want to read, but maybe you convictionally can't read. And I've had that happen a couple of times so far. So yeah, you don't get to pick the series. They pick the series, and then you just kind of deal with it one way or the other. Thankfully, like the past year, the books that I've received have either been books that I definitely plan on reading, or they've been books that I know somebody else would love. But still, you very well may be stuck with a series that you don't have any interest in reading. A third con would be shipping damage. Now, for those of you who live in the UK, this may not be an issue for you, but for those of us that live in the United States, I know that not all carrier services are created equal. So there has been a couple of times where I've received some minor damage to some of the books that I've received. Now, early on, that damage was dealt with swiftly and phenomenally. So it was a very simple, hey, my book arrived damaged. The box was caved in. The corners were all messed up. Whatever. I sent them pictures. They had me send them the book back, and they sent me a replacement copy. For those of you that are extremely picky about your special editions, and maybe you should be if you're paying $50 a month for this subscription service, there are little things such as, I don't know if you can see this little crease right here. I'm going to try to hold it up. Yeah, so this little crease right here, this is something that a lot of people would complain about. Now, this is something that can easily happen in shipping, or it could happen before it was even boxed, or maybe you did it when you were pulling it out of the box. But little things like that, or some people even complain, it may not show up on camera, but there's some little inconsistencies with the sprayed edges, or for instance, with these books in particular, these books received a lot of flack because of the swords. My swords, thankfully, are all straight, but because of the difference in humidity and climate, it caused some of their pages, with them being sprayed edges, to warble up a little bit. And so it was really noticeable when the swords were kind of wavy. And so when you deal with damage like that on your books, used to it was if you were unsatisfied, they would do whatever they could to make sure that their customers were satisfied. But because they've really kind of gained a lot of popularity recently, this has led to them being more strict about what they do and don't replace. So what I mean is, for those of you that deal with Facebook, there is a page on Facebook dedicated to the Broken Binding. It's a collector's page or something like that, where you can buy, sell, or trade books or whatever, or even get advice about your subscription service. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen people post on there a picture of something minor like any of those issues, which I don't think they're issues really. And they say, is this something worth contacting the Broken Binding customer service about? Because I'm not satisfied with it and I would really love a replacement. And most of the time, most reasonable people say, no, it looks fine. And they're probably going to say it looks fine. But there has been a few times where I have seen that some people's books are the spines have been crushed here or there, or there is some inconsistencies with the sprayed edges, or, there's just little issues like that. And rather than accepting the returns and sending us the product that we not only expect, but a lot of times that they claimed that they would provide for us, now most of the time they deal with just giving you a partial refund. And by partial, I mean like $5. So it's rare that you're going to see them go, yeah, send us the book back and we'll send you a brand new pristine one that's wrapped up very carefully. And so just know that ahead of time, that there are some reservations that I have with certain mail carriers, because like I said, they're not all created equal. So if you go into the subscription service and you don't have a very good mailman or lady or a very good UPS guy, then you very well may end up with damaged books that you paid a premium for. And then the last con for this video is the tier 1 wait list. Like I said, I've been tier 2 now for a little over a year and a half. And it's been great so far. So real quick, what's the difference between tier 1 and tier 2? Tier 1, their books are normally signed and numbered, whereas tier 2, they're not guaranteed to be signed. Most of the time, they're not going to be signed, and they're definitely not going to be numbered as far as the subscription books go. Originally, and by originally, I mean when I first was a subscriber, when I became a tier 2 subscriber, they had informed me that as some of the tier 1 subscribers canceled their subscription, because there's only a limited number of tier 1 slots that they have. And I believe it's 1,000 because, as far as signing and numbering books. And so as people cancel their subscriptions, the people on the tier 2 list, they would gradually send invites into the tier 1 list. And so you could periodically send the Broken Binding an email and ask for, hey, where am I at in the wait list, if you don't mind me asking? And they'd let you know. And sometimes it moves quickly and sometimes it doesn't move at all. However, that has changed recently, because I've been waiting now for, like I said, quite a while to be on the tier 1 subscriber. And so I had not sent an email wondering where my standing was, because I kind of didn't care. It wasn't a big deal. And I know that they've been bombarded recently with inquiries. And so finally, just a few months ago, I sent an email asking where I'm at in the standings, and they couldn't find me. And they said, well, the reason is because we had such an influx of people wanting to get our books. We increased our number of tier 2 subscribers, but now you have to ask to be part of the tier 1 subscription. So you can't just assume that you're going to be asked. And on top of that, tier 1 inquiries are currently closed, and they were back when I was originally asking. So I had to wait until they said, hey, tier 1 inquiries are open. No, to send them an email to let them know that I was interested to get on the wait list. And so because I didn't do that, I'm not on the wait list. That means that I have started again at the back of the line to be tier 1. So there's some pros and cons, but let's break down some numbers real quick. If you're wondering like, okay, what is this actually going to cost me? So the subscription itself, if you live in the United States, because that's all I can speak for, I'm going to break down what it costs me each month. So the subscription cost me around $32 US a month. However, the shipping will absolutely annihilate you, because shipping from the UK, it's almost as much to ship the book as it is to purchase the book. So if you're thinking, hey, $32 for a special edition hardcover, like that's what I pay for a regular hardcover now, which is preposterous in my opinion. But you're going to pay that in shipping as well. So it costs me in shipping around $26 to ship the book. So overall, it costs me between $50 and $55 US a month to receive the book in hand. And on top of that, it takes a while for it to get here. It takes a while for it to go through customs. So just be aware of that. Not only is that a recurring cost, but it's not like Amazon. Because you're not going to receive the book quickly, then you may be waiting a while on something that you've invested your money into. So just be forewarned. So this comes to the ultimate question of this video, which is the Broken Binding subscription worth it? And I'm going to give you my standard non-answer and say it really depends on your situation. So what do I mean by that? If you are living a lifestyle where you are making enough money that $50 to $60 a month in a subscription service for special edition books is sort of inconsequential to you, then yeah, I would say that this is probably worth it to you. But let's talk about for those of us that are low middle class, or maybe even lower class, or that some people that tend to live paycheck to paycheck, and that is not a slight towards anybody. This is just reality. We all have to live in this world, and this world costs a lot of money, especially now. So what does it look like for me personally? For me personally, is this worth it? It's been a struggle. And let me explain why. Because there are some books that I've received that I absolutely love and I do not ever plan on getting rid of. And so because of that, I'm looking at $50 per book. So just on this shelf alone, and keep in mind that I removed the Will of the Many, it's sitting over here off camera, that just on this shelf alone, we're looking at about $300 worth of books that I paid. And so that's a lot of money for 6 books, right? That's a lot of money, in my opinion, for books, especially when technically you can purchase the same book in its cheapest form, I guess would be ebook, for like $10 or $11 now, which that's also ridiculous, but you understand what I'm saying. The words on the page are the same. Just keep that in mind. You're paying for the extra artwork. You're paying for the extra effort going into the book, the higher quality paper, all those kinds of extra things. But the words on the page are the same as somebody that has a mass market paperback. So is it worth it? It really does depend, because it depends on what you're going to do with it. Okay. What I mean by that is you can make it worth it, even if $50 to $60 might seem a little bit steep. So I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys, as I try to be all the time, and let you know that I don't keep all of my Broken Binding books. Okay. There's a lot of books that if I receive them and I have no intention on keeping them or reading them, I absolutely will list over in our Broken Binding sellers page on Facebook, or I will list them on eBay, depending on the book. So oftentimes if I receive a notification that the book series that they will be doing for that quarter of the year, if it's something I have no interest in, the first thing I try to do is I try to let somebody know in that Facebook group, hey, I have no interest in this. If somebody else is interested that is not currently a subscriber, and you want these books, I will sell them to you at cost. Now, at cost meaning the cost of me purchasing and shipping it to you, to where I'm not out any money. If you're willing to do that, then you're more than welcome to these 3 books. That has happened several times, and I'm very thankful that that group exists. There have been several other times, though, where I have received a book that I know is going to be quite valuable, but I have no interest in retaining that book. Now, I paid for it. And some people may say, well, you shouldn't, you're a scalper. But look, if I paid almost $60 for a book, and then a week before I even received the book is selling on eBay for $300, I have no qualms whatsoever about my life or about my lifestyle and how my family operates if I sell that book for $200. Now, what I try not to do is I don't try to drive the price up. So if I'm selling a book on eBay, if I take one of the Broken Binding editions and I know that it's going to do well, that I may hold it for a time, kind of see where it sits, and then I will try to sell it under market for 2 reasons. 1, so I can guarantee a sale. 2, so that I can make at least my money back and hopefully a little bit more. And then 3, so that maybe I could start to drive the price of some of these books down for everybody else, because all of the prices that you find on eBay are based as what somebody else has the price listed as. So some of you guys may think that I'm you're a scumbag reseller or whatever. I don't care if that's what you think, right? I'm perfectly fine that if somebody finds something for $10 at Goodwill and they can turn around and sell it for $50, like, by all means, do whatever you need to do to pay your bills. in that regard, legally and ethically, I should say. There's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, with reselling them. Many of you probably have a Pango account. I know that I do. There's several books that I've read and just been kind of like, yeah, that was sort of like a mid book for me. It was kind of meh. I don't really care about keeping it. And so I'm going to list it on Pango. And every once in a while, I'll find, whoa, this book is worth more than I paid for it. So yeah, absolutely. If I paid $5 for it and it just recently sold for $55, I'm going to list mine for $40 and sell it today, and make a little bit of money off of it so that then I can continue to fund my hobby, because I try my best not to spend money out of my own pocket for these books. And what I mean by that is I either try to recoup the money somewhere else, or I try to earn the money from other sources of income without pulling out of my personal check that I receive from work. So is the broken binding worth it? It depends on what you're going to do with it. If you plan on keeping all of the books, I would say it's probably not worth it. And the reason is because all of the series that you receive may not be a series that you're interested in. Will it be beautiful on your bookshelf? Absolutely it will. But it very well may not be a series that works for you. So it doesn't make fiscally responsible sense to be spending that kind of money on a book series that we are unsure if it will work for us or not. Now, some of you may be saying that about my own books that I have here, like Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, or the Rift War Saga, but I know those books are going to work for me, even though I haven't read them yet, which is why I have kept them. There's the first approach. If you're just trying to keep all of the books, I would say it's probably not going to be worth it to you, because you're going to receive a lot of books that you may not have any interest in. Now, also on the other end of the spectrum, if you're just going into the Broken Binding subscription as sort of like a side hustle or a business venture where you're like, well, I'm going to take all of the books and resell them online, I would also say it's probably not going to be worth it to you, because there are definitely going to be some stinkers, right? In my opinion, the current series as of the time of recording this video, I can't remember what it is. I'll have it listed somewhere right here. The current series I have absolutely no interest in, and I've already used my skip for this year. And so now I'm kind of stuck with these books. And on top of that, I've had to list them on eBay. And because it's not a popular series and people just don't really have any interest in this series, I'm going to have to sell them at a bit of a loss. Now, not much, but a slight loss. And so, yeah, that's just the way it falls sometimes. Some of you might say, well, that's gambling or whatever. I don't care. Again, I'm just trying to be transparent with you guys. If you're just looking at this as a business venture, I'm going to say it's probably not going to be worth it, because you're going to end up stuck with some books that you're not going to be able to sell, at least not at a profit. So this leads me to the sort of final category. If you're looking for a subscription service where you can score some excellent special edition books that you plan to keep while also being able to offload some and even potentially be able to make a little bit of money while you're doing it, I think it very well could be worth it. So what do I mean by that? I mean that in the past, in my experience, since I have been receiving books until now, it has been worth it for me, because I've made a decent amount of money, and decent meaning, not meaning I've made a ton of money off of all these books, but I would be willing to say that most of the books that I have listed, I've been able to almost double my investment on some of these books. So yeah, if you're going into it like, I'm just going to buy these books to scalp them, it's probably not going to work out for you. But if you're saying, well, if I pick up this book, could I possibly sell this book so then it funds my subscription for another 3 months? Yeah, I definitely think that could be worth it to you. But let me break this down as much as possible, because I know I've been chasing rabbits like crazy. Has it been worth it for me? Yes. Will I continue to be a subscriber? I don't know. Probably not. I have actually emailed them recently about canceling my subscription, and they want to keep their subscribers as much as possible. I understand that, but this year I've seen 2 really big misses, one of which promotes some things that I personally and convictionally can't promote. So that's been a little challenging for me. But because I've already paid for book 1 in this coming trilogy, I'm going to buy all 3 books and see if I can offload them to somebody that will love and appreciate them, and hopefully find out what the next series is going to be. And I will base my decision on whether or not I keep the subscription on that. So if it's going to be a series that I don't have interest in, or I don't think other people have interest in, or I don't think can continue to fund my subscription, then personally, I will probably cancel my subscription. However, very well could be a series that I've been looking forward to and didn't know that I needed a special edition to, in which case I would keep, or it very well could be a series that a lot of other people are interested in that will allow or permit me to continue funding my subscription with them. So if that's the case, then yeah, I definitely think that it could be. So overall, what would I tell you? I would say count the cost, and please be very prudent with your decisions. Don't underestimate. If you think it's going to cost around $55 a month, round up to $60, and then look at your budget. Hopefully you have one. Look at your budget and say, can I afford that? And if it's even like slightly questionable, I would say don't do it. You can always buy these books later. These are they're just books. They're just books, right? You can buy the same words on the page for a lot cheaper without going into the hole, and you get to pick which books that you purchase. So that's point 1. Another thing to consider is these extra editions, such as The Will of the Many. Yeah, you may or may not get a copy of this, but guess what? You also may get a copy of this. So if they announce a book they're going to do a one-off special edition sale for, just be intentional and be ready to hit buy now, right? Also make sure you have a card on file. Otherwise you probably won't get it because they sell out quickly. So just be prudent with those decisions. Make sure you discuss them with your spouse or those in your household, or maybe you're a single person and you just have so much money coming in that you don't know what to do with it. Then by all means, go buy all the books. But for the average Joe, I would say really count the cost. Really count the cost before you say, ooh, this is going to look pretty on my shelves. Or for people like me, I tend to predominantly read ebooks, and so these are just shelf candy. And so do I really want to pay $50 to $60 a month for these shelf trophies? Maybe you do. And if you do, like, that's okay, as long as you're not doing something unwise or going into debt for. Just make sure you count the cost, because it can be a hefty one. And I would hate to see the hobby of buying books put a strain on a marriage or put a strain on your finances in any way. So keep that in mind. Also, they have different types of subscriptions, and each one is an additional fee. So yeah, personally, I'm going to tell you this one more time. Personally, I do like the books that I have currently. I don't know that I'm going to continue, but I will say I will continue to buy from the Broken Binding. It just may not be their books in their subscription boxes. For instance, most of the books from the Broken Binding that I have kept have been these external sales like Aragon and Sun Eater and The Will of the Many. The only like subscription books that I've kept, I think, has been Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn and the Rift War Saga. I think those are the only subscription books that I have kept out of all of them. So it's just something to consider. So is the Broken Binding worth it? It could be. Now, I will say if you live in the UK, the cost of entry is going to be a lot cheaper. So it very well may be worth it for those of you that live in the UK, a lot more than those of us that live in the United States. But yeah, just count your cost, be wise about it, and let me know if you have any other questions about this, because I'm happy to answer them. So guys, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me and listening to me ramble about the Broken Binding for a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you on the next one.